What's up, you guys? Welcome to the finale of the football frame of mind time machine for the NFL in the 1970s, right? This is the last video of this series, and then we will shift focus after the majority of the videos have been dropped from this series, and we will start the 80s after that, right? Takes a little bit of time. You want to make sure I get the intro right and get the right players of that era, the players that I like, and some of the greatest ones as well, some of the greatest coaches, greatest teams, things like that. You want to make sure I do that correctly and, give the people that played in the 80s the best, the best rollout you can, right? But you want to make sure you do all of that, right? And that's important to me, right? But this is the last video. This is 1979. And then we'll briefly cover 1980 before we do the deep dive for the beginning of the 80s series, right? But hope you enjoyed it so far. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, including YouTube, which this will be uploaded to as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Villain Sports Media Network. That is what we are growing as a collective. We got a whole lot of guys and girls over there doing some real work to build this network up. So we need y'all support and we need y'all viewership. So let's keep rolling. All right. So without further ado, let's get into 1979. So, as I mentioned in every video, we will do the champion last, but we're going regular template this time, right? Regular template, right? So, let's start with the MVP of the league. MVP of the league is Earl Campbell from Tyler, Texas, right? So, he is on a roll, right? Just to say the least, he's on a roll, right? He's on a roll, 1,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 100 yards, 100 plus yards a game. And that's not even the peak of his powers yet. But we're in the 16 game schedule, and he already has done it. Like he's already shown how good you can be with 16 games in the regular season. Um, he's good as hell, man. He's a good ass running back, and he's not even at the peak of his powers. That comes sooner or later. But he does win MVP this season, and not just win, but like dominant, bro. Like dominant. Like Houston was in a bag, like in a bag, man. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But he wins MVP. Otis Anderson. All right. Remember this name, Otis Anderson. All right. Otis Anderson is one of the most underrated running backs in the history of the game, bro. He went to the U, right? So that's Miami of Florida. Um, and I don't know much about him in college, so I'm actually gonna take a look, right? So pretty good running back. He was in the independent conference at that time, but 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, 8 touchdowns. Caught the ball for a touchdown, and did well enough to be eighth overall in the 1979 draft. So, um, rookie of the year, 1,000 plus 1,600 yards to be exact. Wow, that's getting it done. That's getting it done. That's getting it done. Oh my gosh. Wow. He came out the game gunning, bro. who was Larry Wilson, Bud Wilkerson. So Larry Wilson ends up coaching them for a couple games. Yeah. But he's a legend anyway with the Cardinals, so like I didn't expect nothing else. Otis Anderson, man, 1,600 yards, man. Barely missed out on the rushing title, right? But your defensive rookie of the year is Jim Haslett, right? So yes, that Jim Haslett, Saints head coach Jim Haslett, wins defensive rookie of the year, right? This is 1979. He wins that. The Saints coach has some success, man, but his run was ultimately halted by, like, not gonna say halted because he might have been on his way out per se anyway, because they were good, but not like they didn't take that next step that they needed to take, man. And then add in Hurricane Katrina at the time. Um, it just was a bad time for the city of New Orleans, man. But before that, there was a lot of good, man. Then he coached my Rams in St. Louis, and they were absolutely garbage. Like, it was so bad. Ugh, disgusting times. But nonetheless, he's got some defensive coordinator experience, man. Um, yeah, Pittsburgh defensive coordinator, then gets the head coaching job, so they defensive coordinator for the Rams, and yeah, man, interim head coach, and so yeah, he had a really good, really interesting coaching career to say the least, man. But it turned out to be really good, and I didn't know he won defensive rookie of the year, bro. So I wonder what kind of career he had after that. So he's an inside linebacker, so he's like 6'3", 230, so pretty good size as well. Interception, so he's a pretty good linebacker for Buffalo. And played with the Jets for a little bit, so yeah. So he did pretty good, man. Second round draft pick, so yeah. Coach of the year. So yeah, he's had a good football life. Earl Campbell wins Offensive Player of the Year as well as MVP. But let's talk about Leroy Selman. Let's talk about Leroy Selman. Leroy Selman wins Defensive Player of the Year in 1979. And this really completes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' first real um, rebuild, right? As an expansion team. The Seahawks at this time were the second. They both were expansion teams in the same year, so that's 1976. And I believe that they were the first team to make the playoffs out of both of those teams, Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay had a really good season in 1979, combining um, combining Doug Williams, Ricky Bell, right, first round picks on offense, and then you combine with the fact that they have Leroy Selman on defense, and he is a beast. So there you go, man. You know what would have made this fitting if John Matuzak, who went to like Tampa University, if he was able to play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that would have been cool. But he's Oakland right now, so he ain't got to worry about that. They about to go on another Super Bowl run. But Leroy Selman, 11 sacks, fumble return for a touchdown, man. Um, good, good. This is the peak of his powers. And boy, he was really good. Really good, man. So those are your award winners. I'm actually curious to see who else finished there. So we got Dan Fouts, which we will get into. We got Brian Sipe, Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, Harold Carmichael, Steve Largent, Wilbert Montgomery, and Ken Stabler all in the running for MVP. Defensive Rookie of the Year is a very interesting name at the top of that list. And you also know what's ironic about these two names for Offensive Rookie of the Year is that yes, Phil Simms is on the list for Rookie of the Year, but these two guys become teammates later in their career when it comes time for the Giants to win a Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl under Bill Parcells. They become teammates. That's pretty cool. That's pretty damn cool. So, nonetheless, man, that's pretty cool. Let's see, Coach of the Year. So Jack Party, yeah, he ends up getting, he ends up getting um, Coach of the Year. So that's cool. So, excuse me. So, all right. So, let's talk about some stuff. Let's get into the draft, man. Let's get into the draft. So, Buffalo gets the first over. Oh shit, my bad. Buffalo gets the first overall pick, right? Um, because they traded O.J. Simpson to the 49ers. And the 49ers were just stupid enough to give them a first round pick for O.J. Simpson at age 32 or 31 or 30, whatever. He was over the hill at that point. Dumb. That's what I have to say. Absolutely dumb. Some trades just you shouldn't make. Somebody should have whispered, and whoever made that decision, what the fuck are you doing? That's what they should have said. Because that's not working. That's not worth it. That's not working. That was just a really bad trade. But Buffalo drafted Tom Cousino, Ohio State, first overall pick. Didn't have that long of a career, and honestly, he didn't even play until '82 with Cleveland. So I'm not sure what happened. Let me see. Tom Cousino. Yeah, Tom Cousino. Let's see. So he was hella good at Ohio State. Um, so he was hella good at Ohio State. So he he was drafted first overall by Buffalo, and yeah, so he was selected first overall in '79 by Buffalo, who acquired the pick as a part of a 5 draft pick package that sent O.J. Simpson to San Francisco, and yeah, he never played for the Bills. Instead, signed with the Canadian Football League's Montreal Alouettes, who signed him for double the money originally offered by the Bills. Cousino became a star for the Alouettes, becoming the Grey Cup most valuable player in '79, and he only played in 4 games in his third season because of an elbow injury, and Alouettes collapsed, right? So that's when he returned. That's when he returned to. They said that's when he returned to play in the States with Cleveland in 1982, and yeah, so not really a bust, but also his good years were in Canadian football, so not really a bust. But he chose to know his worth early, man. So Hey, that's the way it works, man. So Mike Bell, he played till 91 and got 50 some sacks with Kansas City. He saw them through the Derek Thomas era and Marty Ball too. Let's see, Phil Simms, Moorhead State. Yeah, Moorhead State, 7th overall. Um, Shit, he had a good career too, dog. Like Phil Simms was good, and you can tell that the Giants are rebuilding. Right, we'll just go here. Right, so the Giants were one of the greatest teams throughout the early NFL. Right, they won some championships. They was always in the picture. 58, 59, 61, 62. So they're always in the championship picture, right? But after they started to, I want to say after Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi left, right? That started their decline a little bit. So Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry, who were two of the greatest coaches in NFL history, right, were coordinators at this particular time, right? So Lombardi left in 59 to become the head coach of the Packers, right? Which would become the team of the 60s, right? Tom Landry left after the 59 season, right, to become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Which would become one of the greatest franchises in NFL history. Most certainly one of the most lucrative. Um, and it was built on his back, definitely. So um, he did his thing. But they left and they were stuck in 1960, right? So yes, the Giants had some success um, in 1960, including going to the championship, but they never stood a shot against the Bears. They never stood a shot against the Packers because they had Vince Lombardi, right? They never stood a shot after that because you don't have those geniuses really working behind the scenes, right? Because I want to say Howell was the head coach, right? Right, Jim Lee Howell. He was the head coach, right? But he wasn't the brains behind the operations. That was Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry, offense and defensive coordinator, respectively, right? So after they don't do anything, then they don't do anything for a very long time, right? So from 64 to 1981. So let's say 1980. They don't win a thing. They don't win a thing. No playoffs. They got some winning seasons, but nothing spectacular, right? They don't win anything, right? So you look at said Giants, right? You look at said Giants, and it's not pretty, man. It's not pretty at all. It's not pretty. They're not doing anything. And it sucks, man. It sucks to see them like that because they don't win anything for a while, right? But you see guys like Phil Simms, right? That changes things for them. They start to head in the right direction. They make the playoffs in 81, right? An interesting coach is actually the head coach of the Giants at this time. That is Ray Perkins. You know, Ray Perkins is an interesting coach to say the least. Um, he was the receivers coach for New England. He was offensive coordinator for the Chargers in '78 under Coryell and Prothro, right? Then he becomes the head coach of the Giants, right? And they have some success. They do. 4-12, not that good, but 4-12, and then 9-7. They make the playoffs. They lose in the next round, right? And then Ray Perkins leaves or gets fired or whatever, right? Not the success that you would want to have, right? But something different about Ray Perkins is what we really need to talk about, right? Something that he did in his career that was almost admirable in a sense, right? Ray Perkins left or got fired, however you want to call it, the New York Giants to coach his alma mater, which is Alabama. And he not only coached Alabama, he was the coach to replace Bear Bryant, Paul Bear Bryant, one of the greatest coaches of all time, national titles, countless players, one of the greatest coaches of all time. And Ray Perkins decided to be the one to replace him. That is not something that you can just shake a stick at. That's tough because Bear Bryant has, I want to say, 6 national titles. And he was basically a legend, a hero in the state of Alabama. He was bigger than the mayor, bigger than the governor, bigger than the senator, right? That's how big he was. And Ray Perkins took that challenge head on, right? Not exactly sure how it went, but tough job nonetheless. And then he takes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers job, and yeah, it's not that good. Not that good. Not that good. But going back to his New York Giants days, he's responsible for giving Bill Belichick his start, basically. Not necessarily his start, but definitely responsible for, mm, you know, I could say he gave him his start, right? Because 79 was the first time Bill Belichick had a big time job as a NFL coordinator. So we'll say special teams coordinator, right? So I'd say Ray Perkins was responsible for giving him his start as a big time, put him on the path to becoming Coach Belichick, what we know today, right? Um, so yeah, even though Bill Belichick started at 23 years old as a special assistant, right, and then a special assistant to the special teams play, and then a receivers coach, and then a defensive assistant, and an assistant to special teams. But when he joined the Giants in 1979, he was a special teams coordinator and a defensive assistant, right? And then after he got that particular job, man, what did they say? The rest is history, man. We'll get into Bill Belichick a little bit more when we get into the 80s and how important he was on the Giants and per se. But yeah, the rest is history after that. Obviously, wins a couple championships as defensive coordinator with the Giants, right? Head coach of the Cleveland Browns, which opens up the door for one of his more famous assistants, right? Nick Saban, who's a defensive coordinator for him with the Browns as well. So he becomes his history as a big name football mind starts with that, right? But everybody's kind of under that Bill Parcells tree in a sense. So Yeah, so we'll get into that. But after 1979, the rest is history for Bill Belichick. He goes from being defensive coordinator, one of the most important defensive minds in the game, to being one of the greatest coaches of all time, right? So we'll get into a lot of Bill Belichick as we get into more of the time machine. But yeah, he got his start in '79 with Ray Perkins. So shout out to Ray Perkins for taking that challenge on, man. But Phil Simms, man, is one of those ones, man. Phil Simms was a great quarterback, man. One of the best. Like, I don't know why he's not in the Hall of Fame per se. I don't really know. Um, because he wasn't terrible. Maybe he didn't have the Pro Bowls or anything, but he most certainly was a winner. So I don't know. That's surprising to me. But nonetheless, man. So we get into Cincinnati drafts Jack Thompson third overall, which I'm not sure why the fuck they did that. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. Why would you draft Jack Thompson third overall? That makes no fucking sense at all, right? That's so stupid. That's so stupid when Ken Anderson is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, not when Bill Walsh was there, right? He's not that level. But 79, he wasn't terrible. 80, he wasn't terrible. 81, he gets you to a Super Bowl. 82, still pretty good. 83, he's solid. 84, he's still pretty good, right? So I don't understand why you draft him. Why do you draft Jack Thompson? Why do you do that? Like, he never really played. He played with Tampa Bay for like a little bit, and they were terrible. So no way, no way, no way, man, no way they did that shit. Whatever. But Dan Hampton, Arkansas, um, fourth overall, man, pretty good career. He's got a gold jacket, man. Um, so then you look at guys like I said, Otis Anderson, 9, rookie of the year. But Kellen Winslow, I tell you guys all the time, from St. Louis, went to Missouri, so shout out. He went to East St. Louis High School, so that's pretty cool. The Flyers always got some good ass players, bro. I'm just like, bro, they be cheating their ass off sometimes, bro. But nonetheless, man, Flyers are always good. I'm just fucking around, but they good as fuck though. But I tell you guys all the time, I've been telling you out this whole series that there are guys that transcend the position, right? And then there are guys that take it to a whole nother level. Kellen Winslow is the genesis of what the tight end position is today. Everybody who's everybody who's big in the tight end position should bow to Kellen Winslow. Because without him, you don't have a George Kittle. You don't have a Kyle Pitts. You don't have a Travis Kelsey. You don't have a Tony Gonzalez. And you certainly don't have a Shannon Sharp. This guy is the genesis of what the tight end position is today. You think about a guy that is already a big target. Maybe not the more pristine route running, but we're talking about a living, breathing mismatch nightmare for the whole entire defense. I can use his big body as a reason to block and then release out into the flat. I can have him block and then release on a crosser across the field because he can run it. He can run it like a receiver. He can catch and he can jump. I can line him up at receiver. And now you got to shift your defense to make him, your vocal point. Surround that guy with Dan Fouts throwing all over the field. Surround him with Charlie Joyner, who's having a career resurgence. This guy right here changed the tight end position to what we see today. Everybody should be looking at him for the genesis of how we got here and how important the tight end is today. This is the guy. So all you young players out there, all you people out there, Kellen Winslow is important. Just look at these numbers, man. And even in 1979, I don't think they knew what they had. But in 80, they did. 81, 83, right? This guy was everything for the tight end position, man. Like everybody, like I said, everybody I mentioned, and I tell y'all this all the time, right? Yes, I mentioned other guys that changed the position, but Kellen Winslow was different. Different, man. Like different, dog. Like people don't talk about him that much, man. Being as important as he was for that position. Yeah, Shannon Sharpe was good, man. He was good, and he even ran routes like a receiver because technically he was. He was a big receiver, right? But you gotta understand at this particular time, this is 1979. Tight ends weren't doing that. Not that. Different, bro. Different. So, like I said, man, pretty good, dog. Pretty good, man. Ricky Watts. I feel like I remember that name. Mark Gastineau. Yeah, Mark Gastineau. Right? Sacks were official. In 82. So we're getting close to that. So 20 sacks, right? In 81, 19, 22. So 22 was the record for a while. And he was balling, man. Officially, that was the record. But Deacon Jones had like 20 sacks, bro. 25 sacks in one season, man. So I'm rolling with Deacon Jones. All right. That's my dude. But nonetheless, man, let's get in here, man. Let's get in. Jim Haslett, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So one of those important names that we need to discuss going into the 80s, right? This is one of those names, okay? His name is Joseph Clifford Montana Jr., professionally known as Joe motherfucking Montana. And Joe Montana would be the quarterback of the 80s. But believe me, it was not like that to begin with. Drafted third round in 1979. Joe Cool, as he would become known as, was a pretty good quarterback, man. Pretty good. I mean, like, in an era where running was still kind of the thing, Joe Montana was really, really good, man. Really, really good, man. And he's got a national title in there. So, yeah, Joe Montana went to one of the biggest schools at this particular time, right? And I don't know if Lou Holtz was there. Was he there yet? No, Dave Devine. Dave Devine. So Dave Devine. Yeah, so this is all Dave Devine. Okay. Or Dan Devine, should I say. All right. So I thought Lou Holtz was there at that time. He is not. So Joe Montana becomes the quarterback of the 80s. He becomes a gold jacket recipient, and the rest is history, man. But 1979, he was not that guy. He was just a guy drafted in the third round out of Notre Dame. He was just that guy. And nobody knew that Joe Montana would become what he would become, right? But third round pick of the 49ers, man. And this is 1979. This is also the beginning of Bill Walsh's tenure with the 49ers, the San Francisco 49ers, man. So, shout out to my homie Maria. She's the biggest 49ers fan. But this is what started that golden era for the 49ers when Bill Walsh accepted this job, right? So let's get into that a little bit, right? Because Bill Walsh is the opening picture of my intro. So I have to get into it before I get into like the stats and stuff. This is going to be a long episode because it's like the last one, right? But I can't go on without mentioning how important this step is for the 49ers, all right? Because getting Bill Walsh to come over to the 49ers, right, was almost like, damn, what took so long, right? And when I say it, it's not like he was impatient about it, right? But it's like his mindset for offense was way ahead of his time. And what I say that is I went through this in another video, but I'll go through it again, right? When he was the quarterback's coach for Cincinnati, Ken Anderson was the best quarterback in the league, and he was getting to the point where he was going to be that. His stats look good. His completion percentage was top notch in the league in an era where they didn't really give a fuck about completion percentage, right? But Bill Walsh had him under so much freedom, right? Or at least within what he wanted him to do. It worked. And when he left, you can see the results of Ken Anderson's career, right? So I personally feel like, and I'll say this to the end of time, I think he wanted to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. And Paul Brown or whoever the powers that be said, no, you ain't ready. It's not for you. And I feel like Bill Walsh was like, oh, the disrespect. I'll show you. And that he did. He took his talents to college, offensive coordinator for the Chargers for a year, and then went to Stanford to coach college. I'm not really sure how good Stanford was. I don't really know. But whatever it was, it caught the attention of the 49ers in 1979. And guess what? The rest is history. And as we get into the 80s, guess what? I'll show you how good that was. But Joe Montana is drafted in the third round and he becomes a gold jacket recipient. Right? So then we go down some more, and we start looking for some names that I can remember. So let's see. Ryan Springs and a little bit of yards there. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Atlanta got a guy, got 2,000 yards, so like one season shit. So we still got the multiple rounds, yeah. So we still in that era with multiple rounds and shit. So, but I had to make sure I gave Joe Montana some motherfucking love. Okay. Ooh, Michael Jackson played in the NFL. Let's see. Third round pick. It's pretty good, man. That's what he used to say. But nonetheless, man. Let's see some more first rounders that stand out to me. Let's see. So Phil Simms was drafted high, bro. You drafted high, bro. Steve Fuller, 7,000 yards. So I'm pretty sure he got to start somewhere in there. 80 was a good season for him. 79 was pretty good. He's like Captain Comeback. He had 4 game-winning drives. He was Chicago for a minute. Well, he was backing up. But he is a Super Bowl champion, though. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think, man. Receiving yards, 19 touchdowns, tight end. Ernest Gray. Ricky Watts. All right. Cool. Let's focus on some stats, baby. Let's get into some stats, dog. All right. So remember in the last few videos, if you're watching, remember I said that Dan Fouts was about to be unlocked. Well, guess what? Here we are, motherfucker. Let's talk about it. Dan Fouts, man, was unlocked in 1979, man. Now, you've been watching this. How many motherfucking times have y'all heard me say, oh, such and such had 4,000 yards? When the last time you heard that? It's been a long time since somebody hit 4,000. And guess what? Dan Fouts did that shit. And boy, did he. He did it on 62 completion percentage as well. Yes, the interceptions are high, right? But we in a time where that ain't really that important, man. We trying to put the ball in the end zone a bunch of times. And that's what he did, man. Dan Fouts had his first big season. He had his first big season of a few, right? So, he just went up and up for the next 3 seasons. And if they didn't have the strike in 82, he might have passed for 5,000 and been the first person to do that shit before a very important person that we'll get into in the 80s did it. But he was good, man. He was good. And when he cut down on the interceptions, he was even better. So, like 4,000 yards at this point is like 6,000 yards today. Like, it's just stupid. It's stupid, dog. And like he was balling like He was balling. And leading the league in passing is crazy, but you can see that everybody doing it now. Like this is the more concentration that I've seen of 3,000-yard passers in the history that I've been looking at. This is the first year I've seen of more than 10. And this is good because you're seeing how the league's evolving now. That quarterbacks are going to have to win ball games, right? You need it, but you also need your quarterback to be more efficient, right? And you're starting to see some efficiency now. 62 completion percentage, man. Steve DeBerg, right? 2-13, right? Really bad team. But he was efficient with 60 completion percentage. Ken Stabler had one of his best seasons, right? Touchdown and interception ratio for Roger Staubach, right? His one of his best seasons, right? Let's see. Touchdown. Brian Sepe, right? Who ended up winning MVP the next year, right? 28 touchdowns. Steve Grogan, 28 touchdowns, right? Interceptions also about Brian Sepe, but that's okay. That's all right. Richard Todd has that much. Archie Manning had one. I want to say these 2 seasons were the best for Archie Manning. This is the closest he got to a like a playoff berth during his time with New Orleans. That's the closest he got to the playoffs, right? 79 and 80. And he made a Pro Bowl too. Ron Jaworski continuing to do his. Doug Williams leads Tampa Bay to a 10-6 record, right? So there you go. There you go. Burt Jones had some injury issues this year, so it didn't really work for him. But you can tell that these guys are really good. And Joe Ferguson, like I said, he's top 5 in Buffalo Bills quarterback play. So that's pretty good, right? So let's get into some rushing. Let's get into some rushing yards, man. So rushing yards, man, not Walter Payton, but Earl Campbell, MVP of the league, of course. Leads the league in rushing. Walter Payton leads the league in carries, right? Otis Anderson, Wilbert Montgomery, right? He has some good years with Philly, right? He'll have a couple more good seasons. But this was one of his big ones. Ricky Bell, and one of his only really good season with Tampa Bay. And this was his best season. Franco Harris gave you 1,100. Remember when I told you John Riggins was waking up? Well, guess what? 1979, he had 1,100 yards, career high. He's 30 at this point. And would you think that he would do a whole lot better later? Yes, he would. And yes, he did. So he was good, man. Tony Dorsett, sophomore slump. What sophomore slump, man? 1,100 yards, really good, man. Larry Zonka coming back. I want to say he was with the World Football League at some point. But he came back. And this is his last season. He's like, I gotta go out with some bang. And he did. Almost 1,000 yards, right? So Archie Griffin had one of his better seasons, right? Sam Bam Cunningham still on the list. Let's see, touchdown. So Walter Payton's in there. Pete Johnson with Cincinnati, 14. Clarence, right? Sherman, Chuck Muncie, 3rd overall pick, 76. He'll have a better season, but 79 was one of those seasons for him, right? And I don't know why New Orleans would trade him. That makes no fucking sense. Why would you trade him away? Y'all need him. But nonetheless, that's your runners, man. Yards per carry. Let me see. So Wendell Tyler led the league in that. All right, who had the most rushing yards as a quarterback? I'm actually curious about that. Steve Grogan, 300. Okay, cool. All right, let's check out some receiving yards. Okay, so Joe Washington, running back from Baltimore, led the league in receptions, man, with 82, right? Baltimore didn't really do anything because Burt Jones was hurt, but still good, right? Ahmad Rashad finished top 5 in receiving yards, man. One in his run of terror, 78, 79, 80, 81, right? 4 Pro Bowls. Really good, right? Let's see. John Stallworth had 1,000. Steve Largent led the league in receiving yards, 18 per catch is good. 9 touchdowns. He was also got some MVP votes. Let's see. Frank Lewis. He'll have another good season, right? But this was his first 1,000-yard season. Drew Pearson had 1,000. This would be his second 1,000-yard year. James Lofton would begin to assert himself as one of the league's best receivers. He gets close to 1,000. Harold Carmichael got 11 touchdowns. That's like he like 6 fucking 1,000. That's what he is. 6 foot 1,000. Ozzie Newsome, Dave Casper, right? They get some good years at the tight end position. So yeah, man, that's pretty good, man. Yards per catch, that's what I'm looking at. So Stanley Morgan, or like Stanley Steamer or something like that. But Stanley Steamer is his fucking nickname. That's pretty cool. 25th overall, 1977. He finished his career with 10,000 receiving yards and 72 touchdowns. One of the better receivers in NFL history. And nobody really talks about him that much. That's crazy. He had a good ass career, man. He could have got 1,000 a couple more times for real. So that's pretty good, man. Doriel Harris, New Mexico State, 3rd round pick. He was probably a speed demon because he had a lot of catches, yards per catch. Harold Jackson on the same team as Stanley Morgan, man. So yeah, dog. These guys were some speed demons, man. So that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. So I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So that's some of your good receivers around this era, man. So let's talk about defense, man. So sacks ain't official yet, but Jack Youngblood leads the league all pro season. Al Barker wins defensive rookie of the year. He had 23 sacks. He's keeping his pace during his 3-year stretch of really good play. Claude Humphrey still doing his thing, man, age 35. But guess what? He's on the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Atlanta, he's moved from Atlanta to now Philly. And that might be the key to help Philly get to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's the end all be all. But adding a guy that's been kind of losing for a while that want to win, that might be the thing that gets them to the Super Bowl in 1980. So we'll see, man. But Leroy Selman, of course, is Defensive Player of the Year. Let's see some names on here. We'll go to like 50. Yeah, so Lyle Alzada, LC Greenwood, might be 33. So Steelers are getting older, man, but they still deadly. So it really don't matter, bro. They still deadly. About interception, let's see. So Mike Reinfeldt from Houston leads the league in interceptions in 1979. That would be his first and only All-Pro season of some pretty good ones. It's pretty good ones, right? He's an undrafted guy out of Was that Wisconsin, Milwaukee? So he had some good years, man. But 12 interceptions is good. Got Jack Lambert, right? 6 interceptions, linebacker. He's an all pro. Um, mm, Let me see. Harry Carson, beginning his career, good, So 78, he was an all pro and a pro bowler, right? 3 interceptions, 79, he was a pro bowler, right? So they're starting to piece together their defense a little bit. Harry Carson was there longer than LT was, so that's interesting, right? So he doing his thing, South Carolina State. So he's building a Hall of Fame case. Mel Blunt's probably already a Hall of Famer at this point, man. Defensive Player of the Year, champion. So yeah, he's probably on that pace already. Let's see. Herman Edwards with another 3 interceptions, so that's good. Mike Haynes continuing his Hall of Fame career. Let's see, Robert Brazil, Jack Ham, stick on there. Yeah, so Roger Worley. What? Jack Tatum, of course, but Roger Worley still playing? In 79. Okay. He had some good ass years too, man. Some good ass years, though. But that's pretty cool, man. So we're about an hour into this video. So guess what time it is? It's time to talk playoffs, standings. All right. So we went through the stats, some pretty good players. We went through the draft, talked about some of the players that's coming up, right? But we got to talk about the Dolphins, man. The Dolphins beat out New England. They beat out New England, and they make the playoffs, right? I told y'all, man, just because the Dolphins weren't like Super Bowl contenders, I mean, they were still in the mix, though. They were still in the mix, man. Still in the mix. Right? They're still good, still winning games, man. Still doing good, man. So they just weren't Super Bowl contenders no more. Everybody got older, people left the team and shit. It's just the nature of the beast, right? Trying to think. So the divisions change at all for real? All right, we can get that a little bit later. All right, so 79, Dolphins win the East, Pittsburgh wins the Central, and San Diego wins the West. Dominating fashion, right? The Steelers and San Diego are the best teams in the AFC, period. The Broncos still riding the high from their Super Bowl appearance a few years ago. They still got a good team, and they 10-6 and represent out the wild card. Houston is in a wild card situation now because they had to take on the Steelers all year. So there you go. The Cowboys win. The Cowboys win the East. Tampa Bay wins the NFC Central, and the Rams win the NFC West, right? With the Chicago Bears and Eagles representing out of the wild card, right? So the worst team in the league is the 49ers and Detroit. They tie for the worst record, and we'll get into their draft a little later, but they'll be fighting for the first overall pick in the draft. So let's get into the playoffs, man. December 23rd, 1979, the playoffs begin with the wild card round, featuring the Denver Broncos, Houston Oilers, and Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles. So let's start with the Denver Broncos, man, who take the loss to Houston, and they win the wild card. Earl Campbell gets a touchdown. They get some field goals. Man, Craig Morgan gets a touchdown. But this was a defensive drag it out game, man. Defensive knockout, drag out. Neither team gets over 300 yards of offense. And that was pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it. Defensive game. Craig Morton has actually a pretty good game. But they can't do nothing. They can't do nothing with them. Pastorini had an okay game. But they got enough from their running backs to really kind of seal the deal, right? So, not the greatest game, but Philly and Chicago was. So you got Dick Vermeil going against Neil Armstrong, and not the guy that went on the moon. All right, that's not the same dude. This is a football coach, not an astronaut. So they playing in Philly. Good game, man. Good game. You look at Harold Carmichael getting a touchdown in the first, right? Walter Payton gets a touchdown in the first as well. 7-7 going into the second. The Eagles get a field goal. Walter Payton gets another touchdown run, followed by a field goal. That takes you into halftime. Chicago's up 17-10, right? But then the third quarter is all Eagles, and the fourth quarter is the same. Ron Jaworski to Harold Carmichael, Ron Jaworski to Billy Campfield, and then a field goal shuts the door, right? So there you go, man. Ron Jaworski has a pretty good playoff game, right? 3 touchdowns, 200 yards, man. Wilbert Montgomery gives you 87. Um, right? Harold Carmichael gives you 100 for 2 touchdowns. How good is that? Herman Edwards gets an interception, right? Walter Payton had 2 touchdowns, right? But they made him work. They made him work for that 67. But too much Phillies, man. Not too much Philly. Too much Philly Eagles. They get it done, man. They get it done. Get it done. They move on to the next round, man. So let's get into the divisional round. December 29th, 1979. This is where it gets good. It gets good, baby. It get real good. All right. So Houston nerfs Don Coryell's offense. How? I don't know. But they force him to 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers, right? That's how you lose playoff games, people. Houston had no business winning this football game. None. They on a backup quarterback. And no, a backup quarterback, and I don't see Earl Campbell on here. Yeah, I don't see Earl Campbell on here. Earl Campbell gave them 50 yards in that game. And I don't see Earl Campbell on this game, bro. Unless I'm tripping. But I don't see Earl Campbell on here, bro. That's what I'm saying. San Diego had no business losing this game. Houston was down a quarterback, MVP of the league, and they really beat them dudes. San Diego had no business losing this game, bro. Everything was pointed to them winning. That's crazy. They 2 biggest threats is not playing. That's crazy. And Dan Fouts had 300 yards with 5 interceptions, man. Tough game, bro. Tough game, man. Tough game. But The Oilers survive, man, and they go on to the next one. So Philly building up to that Super Bowl run in 1980, take the loss to the upstart Buccaneers in their first playoff run ever, and the Bucks win this thing. John McKay, they win. Ricky Bell gets a touchdown, man. Neil O'Donoghue gets a field goal. And the Buccaneers go out to a 17-0 lead, man. Ron Jaworski gets a touchdown, right, at the end of the half, but it's 17-7 at halftime, man. Buccaneers in control. Eagles get a field goal, make it 10-17. Doug Williams gets a touchdown pass from Jimmy Giles, or to Jimmy Giles. And then Harold Carmichael catches a 37-yard touchdown pass, right? But that's it. It's not enough, man. So I wonder when that last touchdown happened for them. So Harold Carmichael catches that with 3 minutes left, right? And they get the ball back. They stop Ricky Bell, right? 3rd and 1. And then they end up punting it to him with 2 minutes left. Damn. And they had it. They had the game. They were in Tampa territory. Ron Jaworski goes down, spikes the ball, and 3 incomplete passes later. So I wonder if they had the timeouts left. I don't know if they had timeouts left. I would love to know that. They spiked the ball. But what's crazy about it is, like, they got to score, right? So they got to score. So he probably didn't have no timeouts left. And we got to call something better, though. Got to call something better, man. Trying to get some yards, something quick, easy. But at least they went to Harold Carmichael on the last play, though. You gotta throw it to your best player, right? But yeah, man, Buccaneers going to the NFC title game, man, after losing all their games in 1976. They rebuilt this team on the backs of Ricky Bell, Leroy Selman, and Doug Williams, and they're going to the NFC title game, bro, in 1979, bro. The Rams take care of the Cowboys, who, like I said, Cowboys are gonna be in the mix, right? Like, there's a couple of like NFC title games in there, but they'll never get to where they were like in the 70s. They'll be good as you see they're 12-4, like there's some 12-4s in there. You know, there's some 9-7s, but they'll never be as good as they were in the 70s, right? Winning Super Bowls and shit under Tom Landry. They'll never be that good again, right? And it's not their fault. It's just the times have changed. And the players that they had aren't gonna be, they're older now. And they're losing a lot of steam. I mean, chill. What's his name? Starbucks, 35, bro. He's 35, man. But I mean, Vince Ferragamo, man, had a pretty good game. 3 passing touchdowns, man. Bill Waddy, right? Big time performance. Good, yeah. Big time performance there. Right, and this was a pretty close game, man. I mean, the Rams outgained them, but Cowboys stuck with it, man. I mean, the Cowboys was winning, right? It was yeah, so 2 yard touchdown pass at the beginning of the fourth makes it an extra point, makes it 19-14. And Ferragamo, man, 2 minutes left at the 50-yard line. Throws a 50-yard touchdown pass to Bill Waddy. And that's it, dog. That's it, man. Cowboys got a penalty with a minute left, illegal touching, and that pushes them back, and that's 4th and 20. And then after that, that's over, bro. Another run, delay a game, and then a kneel down, bro. That was it. That was it. Ain't no fuckery in here, man. So the Rams going to the NFC title game, man. So that's your matchup. We got one more game, man, on December 30th, 1979. It's Pittsburgh going against Miami. And they have to get some get back, man. Because Miami beat up on Pittsburgh early before they start getting all them gold jacket members. So they had to get some get back, man. And the Steelers take care of business, man. Like I said, the Dolphins aren't what they used to be. And they took care of business, man. They did what they supposed to do. So it's kind of like that last hurrah of like Brian, Bob Greasy and shit. You know, this was the last real good season for him before he retires in 1980. Larry Zonko, this is his last year, right? Um, so that's done. But Terry Bradshaw was in peak form, bro. And they going after their fourth Super Bowl, so they not fucking around. And Terry Bradshaw got 2 touchdowns, man. Franco Harris continues his playoff success. Like Sidney Thornton, right? You know, second round pick out of Northwestern State, right? He has some success, right? You know, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, you know, so right. He doing what he gotta do. Lynn Swan, John Stallworth doing their thing. So like defensively, you got it's tough, bro. It's tough. They weren't gonna beat them. Steelers too damn good, man. But that's your divisional. So let's get into championship weekend, right? So January 6th, 1980, uh, Pittsburgh takes on Houston, man, in a rematch of last year's, right? So remember what I told y'all, right? You have to learn to win the game, right? But Houston got lucky anyway because this matchup was supposed to be the Chargers and the Steelers. And I think if the Chargers played them, this would be something that it would be something that the Steelers didn't do well against, right? An offense that attack you all the time. And when you think about 1976, where the Raiders beat the Steelers, right? And they beat them up. They got pressure on Bradshaw, forced them into interception, and they attacked them through the air with Kenny Stabler, right? So, and they attacked him on the ground too. They didn't have none of that. Like Dan Pastorini, right, comes in, plays, right, and he didn't have a good game. But they shut down Earl Campbell again. So they literally deploy the same strategy they did the year prior. If we stop Earl Campbell, they can't fuck with us. And they hold Earl Campbell MVP of the league. And he might have been injured in the game too, which slowed him down a little bit. But they hold him to 15 yards, man. on 17 carries. Terry Bradshaw just has his surgical self, and Franco Harris does the same thing. They ain't got nothing for Lynn Swan. They ain't got nothing for John Stallworth. Benny Cunningham, not first overall, but first round pick in 76 out of Clemson, right? Comes a pretty good tight end for them, you know. Two-time Super Bowl champion. He catches a touchdown pass, right? Mel Blunt gets a fumble recovery, right? So, yeah, man, they just didn't have nothing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. That ain't gonna happen, right? And then we get to the NFC title game, which can kind of let you know why the Super Bowl was kind of ass. Because I don't think either of them teams was gonna beat the Steelers, bro. I don't think any of them teams is gonna beat the Steelers. And quite frankly, the Rams the Rams won, they won the NFC West, but it wasn't that good of a division. And then the Bucks won, but that wasn't the best division, right? I don't even think the Cowboys would have beat the Steelers this time either, considering how they lost that Super Bowl. So I don't know. I think the greatest competition for the Steelers this season might have been San Diego, and San Diego didn't make it to the championship game. So yeah, that might have been the Super Bowl right there. This kind of remind me of when the Dallas Cowboys and the fucking 49ers played in the title game, and then the Super Bowl was just the 49ers beating the shit out of the Chargers, right? So that's what this would have reminded me of if the Chargers would have gotten to the AFC title game. But nah, bro, nasty work, man. But yeah, man. I mean, the NFC Championship game wasn't nothing to really talk about. Field goal, field goal, field goal, and Tampa Bay didn't do nothing. Like Ferragamo didn't do nothing. Cullen Bryant had 100 yards, and McCutcheon had 26, and Tyler had 86 yards, but Doug Williams didn't really do nothing. Um, shit, they should have let Jerry Eckwood pass the ball. He was the best one. Ricky Bell didn't do nothing. Right, it was just an ugly game, bro, across the board. But the Rams just did what they supposed to do, I guess. But the Bucks didn't really do nothing. Like nothing. Like that's crazy, bro. Doug Williams, incomplete pass. They get a field goal here, like second quarter. They get a field goal to begin the second quarter. They get a field goal to end the second quarter. Then incomplete pass, run here or run there. The Rams get another field goal in the fourth quarter. The Bucks couldn't do nothing on offense, bro. Zero. Like they didn't even have. They barely had 200 yards, man. Like this the first time in the motherfucking uh NFC title game. But you know what? As I said with Houston, just because you make it there and you're this hot team doing stuff, you have to know how to win a game like this. And the Rams have been in it. They have been in the playoffs a few years. I mean, They had been in the playoffs a few years in a row, right? They got new coach and everything, but they made it to the championship game in '78. They made the playoffs in '77, made the playoffs '76, '75, '74. Like they made the playoffs a lot, so they pretty much knew how to win a game like this. I'm like, all right, well, we're not doing much on offense, so it's not really that big a deal, right? It's not that big a deal. We ain't necessarily making the playoffs. I mean, we ain't necessarily doing it on offense. So, we just win the game. That's all that really matters. And they did. And they go to the championship game, man. And they play the Steelers, man. So Super Bowl 14 played in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. The Steelers looking to cap the 70s off with a bang, basically getting their fourth championship in this decade, which is like stupid good, right? So they play this game in the Rose Bowl. Chuck Noll going after Super Bowl 4, which would, you know, unfortunately be his last Super Bowl. I mean, shit, they built their team up throughout the late 60s until the early 70s, and they carried that all the way through. But after the 80s start, all them good players start to decline, man, and now we got to redo it. But by that time, you got to deal with the Chargers passing for 5,000 yards. You got to look at the Dolphins who passed for 5,000 yards, right? But we'll get into why the Steelers did not win more after this. And it's a really big reason why. The most important reason why. So let's get to it after the Super Bowl, right? So they're playing the Rams. The Rams got literally home field advantage because it's played right in their backyard, man. But the Steelers start off 3-0, right? Then the Rams take the lead into the first, right? Franco Harris gets a touchdown, continuing his playoff success. That's 10-7, right? Corral gets 2 field goals, and they're winning at halftime. They're winning. They're winning this game at halftime, right? And then Lynn Swan catches a touchdown pass in the third, and then Ron Smith catches a pass from the running back, and they take the lead, right? But the fourth quarter, this right here was stupid, bro. This like the route was awesome by John Stallworth, man. But he caught this pass and it felt like he was underneath the motherfucking goalpost. Like he caught that shit like right here. And it was one of the most beautiful passes, one. And then it was one of the most beautiful catches, man. And it signified to me that the Steelers was the shit, man. And no matter what the Rams did in this Super Bowl, it was not going to be enough. It felt like the Steelers watching this, like on NFL films and shit like that. It felt like when you watch the game highlights, the Rams just wasn't going to do nothing. But they made it interesting. And Franco Harris gets another, Super Bowl. And Terry Bradshaw wins Super Bowl MVP for a second time, stamping him as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. 4 Super Bowl rings, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Nobody was doing that. And I want to say he was the first one to win 4. He was the first one to win. Then Joe Montana got like 4. And then Tom Brady got like 7. Yeah. But nah, man. This was actually a good Super Bowl, man. But the Steelers just had too much, man. Like they had too much. Like I said, you end up, and it wasn't even a perfect game. It was just like you're getting hit with Lynn Swan, and you're getting hit with John Stallworth, right? And then your best defensive player, I want to say Youngblood. He played, but he had like a broken leg in the game, so you didn't even have him, which I think that might have helped a little bit. But I don't know. The Steelers just had too much, man. The Steelers were the favorites by 10 points. Like it was just bad. They didn't do too much, man. Like I said, even when they scored and made it 19-7, right? And they took the lead. Like they had opportunities to win though. But you get an interception, right? So after this play, you take the lead, and then you get an interception, right? Jack Youngblood, right? Like I said, then you get an interception off of Terry Bradshaw, right? But then you don't do nothing with it. You don't do nothing with it. And then you let John Stallworth get loose, and that's it. That's done, son. It's done. Get the ball back. You don't do nothing. You get in the ball back. They don't do nothing. You get the ball back again, right? You driving in their territory, throw an interception. Now the Steelers in go mode. Tick, 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 tick. This is what they do. Franco Harris, 5-yard run. Lose some yards. John Stallworth catches the ball, 45 yards. You run off tackle, no yards. Incomplete pass, no gain, no gain, no gain, right? Defensive pass interference, so that's at the 1 yard line, right? But I will say this last stand by the Rams was pretty cool. So they run the ball, no gain. They run the ball, no gain. Then on 3rd and 1, at the 1, Franco Harris scores a touchdown. And that's it, baby. That's all she wrote, man. But it felt like they had a chance to win this motherfucker too. But like I said, you cannot turn the ball over against good teams, right? And to be honest with you, that's the only turnover they had. But they turned it over at the wrong time, bro. The Steelers was trying to give them the game, if you ask me, because they got an interception and they couldn't do nothing with it. And then they throw an interception themselves. And then by the time you're trying to score, you can't do nothing with that. Steelers already know how to win. They not finna pass the ball no more. They barely passed that motherfucker. And Franco Harris, get two touchdowns by Terry Bradshaw, and the Steelers close out the 1979 season as champions of the football world, man. So that is the NFL for you within the 1970s. The Steelers are the team of the 70s, winning 4 championships throughout the decade. I'd say the Cowboys is the second team because even though they tied Super Bowls with the Dolphins. No, I take that back. No, no, no. The Dolphins are number two because they got an undefeated season. I'm tripping. 1972, they lost no games and they won the Super Bowl. But it was really cool to see back to back, right? The Steelers got both of their, won all four of their titles back to back fashion 74, 75, and 78, 79. The Dolphins won 72, 73. So, yeah. So the decade started off with the Colts winning in 70. That was like Super Bowl 5. Yeah, Super Bowl 5. So the Colts won in 70. Cowboys won in 71. Dolphins win in 72. Dolphins win in 73. Steelers win 75, 74. Steelers win 75. Raiders win 76. Who the fuck won in 77? Who won Super Bowl in 77? I forgot. Let me see. The Cowboys won in 77. I forgot. That was in New Orleans. So, Cowboys won 77. 78 Steelers, 79 Steelers. So, those are your champions, man. And to be honest, it's all AFC teams. Damn near. Yeah, so the Colts won in 70. Right? Yeah, so they won in 70. Yeah, so it's almost all AFC teams, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. That's all AFC teams damn near, except for the Cowboys the whole decade, bro. Damn. That's crazy, bro. Bro, the AFC was cheating, bro. But that's okay. The NFC will have something to say in the 80s. NFC will have something to say in the 80s, man. But nonetheless, man, let's talk about the 80s, man. Let's talk about the 80s, man, before we get up out of here. Just a synopsis, man. So when you get into the 80s, man, you're gonna see a lot more forward passing, man, like vertical passing, should I say. Forward passing is slinging semi ball. That's the forward pass. We're talking about the vertical pass. You're gonna see a lot more of that, man. The 80s also, you get some more flamboyant players, man. Deion Sanders joins the NFL. Barry Sanders joins the NFL. Bruce Smith is in the NFL, man. Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, the 85 Bears, of course. Dan Marino comes into the league. John Elway comes into the league, things like that. So, speaking of those names, let me tell you why the Steelers did not win any more championships after this until 2005, right? So, here's what happened, okay? So it starts after this last Super Bowl, right? So this last Super Bowl they win in 79, right? So Terry Bradshaw plays for another few seasons and they're okay. But he retires in 1983. So let's go to 1983 specifically. Yeah, let's go to 1983 specifically. So Terry Bradshaw retires. He retires like he only plays like one game He wins that particular game. But they finished the season in good fashion, but definitely not where they want to be, right? The problem, I need to get back to this screen. All right. So the problem was Terry Bradshaw retires, right? So what do teams need to do when you lose a top quarterback, right? You need to draft one to continue your run, right? I'd say the team that's done it best after having really good franchise quarterbacks is Green Bay, right? You go from Bart Starr, then they had another guy who led the league in passing. I forgot his name. I forgot his name. I can find it for y'all real quick. So, let's go Green Bay. Yeah. So Green Bay, Bart Starr, and then the '80s they had man, goddamn, the '80s scheduling results, man. Oh man, I'm trying to see. Fuck, I'm slowing down. I've been up too long. All right, hold up. That's not really what I want. What I want is I want the Packers, but I want this. All right, so the '80s, the Packers got somebody, right? And he led the league in passing yards. I don't know if it was it Lynn Dickey? Was it Lynn Dickey? It was. Okay. So they go from Bart Starr winning all the Super Bowls, right? And the NFL championship. So that's the 60s going into the 70s, right? So Lynn Dickey takes them from the 70s, right? The end of the 70s to the 80s, right? And then they get him, right? And that's just a free agent signing, right? And no shots at Lynn Dickey, but that's a free agent signing. But it worked though, right? And then they signed somebody else, man. But I can't remember his name, man. But he showed like led the league in passing as we got into like the late '80s. Here we go. Don Majkowski, right? The Magic Man. Yep. So they draft him and he leads the league in passing, right? But then they go from him, right? They go from Bart Starr to Lynn Dickey to the Magic Man to Brett Favre, then from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, right? There wasn't much drop off in the quarterbacks, right? They always had a guy and they always knew how to get another guy, right? So I say all this to say the Steelers messed up, right? The Steelers messed up, man, in 1983. That is when they messed up. They messed up in 1983 because Terry Bradshaw retired. And you had the best quarterback class ever. ever. John Elway, gold jacket. Todd Blackledge was at Penn State, right? I don't care what draft capital you have to move up and get somebody. You got to. You've got to move up and get one of these guys. You're not going to get John Elway, but if you did, that would set you up for a while, right? Todd Blackledge was I want to say a national champion. You got to get him. Now, because you were so good, you might not have been able to, but you got to trade up and try to get Jim Kelly, right? Tony Eason, you could trade up and get him. He got the Patriots to a Super Bowl in 1985. Right? But you could have got Ken O'Brien. Ken O'Brien was pretty good with the Jets. Right? Now you draft Gabe Rivera, who played 6 games and he looked really good and everything, but I want to say he was paralyzed in a car accident, right? Don't know the particulars of why that happened, but my point is, this is the greatest quarterback class you'll ever see at this particular time. And though you missed out on John Elway, Todd Blackledge, Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, and Kenny O'Brien, you missed out on all of them. Just stand put. And Dan motherfucking Marino falls in your lap. You can't write a better script than this. You can't write a better movie than this. You can't. Name the best movie of all time. This movie would have been better. I guarantee it. Dan Marino falls to 27th, and the Steelers have the 21st pick in the draft. He falls in their lap, and they let it go. They let it go. We're talking about the quarterback that revolutionized the position into what we see today. And they let it go. They let it go. I mean, he right in your backyard. He going to Pittsburgh College, the Pittsburgh Panthers. He from Pennsylvania. He from Pittsburgh. You can't write a better story than that. I get Gabe Rivera was like an athletic big man, but you can't write a better story than this. Have Dan Marino take over the Steelers right after winning 4 Super Bowls. I mean, he take you through the 80s. You're going to get some more receivers. You're going to get some running backs. They're going to build up the defense, right? The 90s is right there. 7 years in the league. Let's check it out. Hold up. 7 years in the league. So that's 83 to 90, right? Dan Marino has passed for 5,000, 4,000 yards 3 times, 3,500 yards 2 more times, right? And a host of motherfucking touchdowns. That takes you into Bill Cowher, where his defenses was legit. Now we already got Dan Marino, and he doing this with like nothing in Miami. So imagine what you can do in Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. They dropped the ball. And that is why the Steelers didn't win a Super Bowl. You know, that's why they ain't win no Super Bowls until 2004 or 5. Because they dropped the ball in 1983. That's why. You had Dan Marino, you had the story, the best story, Academy Award story, and you dropped the ball. Because the Steelers could have won some more. I believe that. I didn't want them to. But Chuck Noll could have had about 7 rings, man. Maybe 8. And Bill Cowher, probably if he even took over after that, he could have had a couple. Dan Marino played almost until 2000. Come on, man. Come on, man. They dropped the ball, man, all because Dan Marino smoked a little weed. So, that's what happened, man. But the 80s is going to be fun to talk about. And that draft is going to be one of those things, man. But I want to thank y'all for watching this series, man. I hope y'all enjoy it from episode 1 to episode 10. Get started on the 80s, maybe in a couple weeks, man, because this is going to be spread out throughout it. Because your boy's going back to school. So we're going to spread it out. I'm going to try my best to get some good content out there for y'all, man. But keep enjoying this. Keep subscribing. Keep liking our videos. This is the Football Frame of Mind. We cover everything football all year long, man. So we would really appreciate it if y'all keep supporting us, right? So thank you. And I'll catch you on the next one, man. Peace. Oh, hop in because we going on a ride, man. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. All right. Peace. I'm up out of here.